Hello and welcome. My name is Dana Sparks. I'm the Director of Operations and Protocols for SWOG, and I'm located at the group's operations office in San Antonio, Texas. I'm here to present to you clinical trials and protocol development. As you probably already know, cancer is a general term for more than 100 diseases in which abnormal cells grow out of control and can spread throughout the body. It isn't really important to us today to go into the incidence or numbers of deaths from specific types of cancer, but it is important for us to recognize that significant strides have been made in the treatment of malignancies. Increased survival for patients with childhood cancers, Hodgkin's disease, breast, uterine, testicular, and bladder cancers can be directly linked to knowledge gained from research studies with patients. Treatment has improved because patients have participated on clinical trials that established that a specific type of therapy worked best for these tumor types. The National Cancer Institute set a goal of increasing patient registrations on NCI-sponsored trials and is continuing that goal today. This intensified with the National Cancer Act of 1971, and the nationwide effort to eradicate cancer has ensured that more patients are being cured today than ever before, and many others are living longer with improved quality of life. Placing patients on these scientific studies is the best way to develop more effective treatments for cancer patients. When we are immersed in the daily grind and the mountain of paperwork and the many hats we wear each day, it can become difficult to remember that we are all involved in a great and noble effort. The work we all do every day is vital in reaching our shared goals of improving the survival of patients with cancer. In order to better understand how our jobs relate to the clinical trials process, I will be discussing clinical trials and protocol development, including preclinical background, types of clinical trials, protocol development, key protocol sections, and protocol actions. The clinical trials process starts with the development of a chemotherapy agent. About 15,000 new agents are screened by the National Cancer Institute each year for their anti-cancer effects. There are 5 steps in the development of a new anti-cancer drug. First, an agent is selected. Then it is screened for activity in the laboratory. Today, this screening process may include advances such as computer simulation of the drug's activity. The drug is then tested in preclinical studies on large animals such as monkeys, and if the drug appears promising, an investigational new drug application is filed with the Food and Drug Administration. And finally, the new agent is tested in humans in clinical trials. A drug must undergo Phase 1 through Phase 3 studies before it is approved by the FDA. Phase 4 studies are done to further test the safety profile of a drug after it is approved for marketing. Within the SWOG, we do perform Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 studies. The purpose of a Phase 1 study is to determine the maximum tolerated dose of the drug. This is to ensure that future patients will receive a sufficient amount of the drug to affect their disease without receiving so much that the drug's side effects are debilitating. Only patients whose cancer has spread through their body and who would not be helped by other treatment are treated on Phase 1 studies. These studies usually involve a small number of patients, usually 15 to 30, at a few institutions. In the past, these studies have been performed at single institutions or very few, 3 or 4 institutions. Within the SWOG, we have a system for collecting data on Phase 1 studies which allows multi-institutions to participate. In Phase 1 studies, different groups of patients receive differing doses of the drug to determine the best dose to be used in the future. As you may imagine, these patients are monitored very closely to observe the incidence of any side effects. If the drug looks promising in the Phase 1 trial, then a Phase 2 trial will be developed. Phase 2 studies are designed to monitor tumor response and to determine whether the drug's effect on the tumor is significant enough to continue treating patients with it. Phase 2 studies usually require a uniform group of patients with strict eligibility requirements and normal organ function. The reason that the group of patients must be uniform is to better evaluate the effects of the new drug on this tumor type. Phase 2 studies within SWOG usually take about 1 to 2 years to complete and require between about 20 patients and the lower 100s of patients. If, in the Phase 2 study, the drug did show anti-tumor effect, a Phase 3 study may be pursued. Phase 3 studies are designed to establish the effectiveness of a new treatment as compared to the standard treatment, using tumor response, toxicities, longer time to progression of disease, or improved survival or quality of life as measures. Patient requirements for Phase 3 trials are that the patient has a certain tumor type and that the patient usually has received no prior treatment. A large number of patients must be available to demonstrate a difference in response between tumor types. Phase 3 studies usually take 3 to 5 years to complete accrual and may involve several hundreds or thousands of patients. In order to obtain the most valuable information from a study, it must be standardized so that a physician participating in California will treat each patient the same as would a physician participating in Michigan. Also, the quality of the data obtained from all participants must be top-notch. In order to standardize patient treatment and data gathering, a protocol document is developed to serve as a guide for all of the institutions. Within the SWOG, the process of protocol development generally, but not always, follows the following format. The idea or concept is sent by any group member to the disease committee chair for consideration. The scientific thrust of the group studies is guided by the disease committee chairs. Upon the direction of that committee chair, the concept may be sent by the protocol coordinator at the operations office to certain members of a particular disease committee for review. An especially important aspect of this review is input from the committee's biostatistician. If the decision is made by the disease committee chair to support the study, and by the group leadership that the study is appropriate for the group, the protocol coordinator submits a letter of intent for a Phase 2 study or a concept sheet for a Phase 3 study to the National Cancer Institute for review and approval. Upon National Cancer Institute approval, the study coordinators are charged with writing their respective sections of the study according to SWOG guidelines. It may take 6 weeks or longer for a study to be finalized depending on how quickly the study coordinators, statisticians, data coordinators, discipline committee designates, and the disease committee chair do their work and iron out any differences of opinion. When the study is ready, it is sent to the National Cancer Institute for review and approval. The NCI Review Committee sends their comments in the form of a consensus review to the Operations Office for distribution to the appropriate individuals. Changes in the study are usually required by the NCI, and it is possible for the study to be disapproved. After the changes are made, the protocol coordinator incorporates the changes into a response letter and sends the study back to the NCI for final approval. Following NCI approval of the study is activated and added to the disease committee's priority list. After going through the development process, each protocol document contains input from many people. As you might think, this input translates into a lot of information. This information is divided into separate sections of the protocol in order to hopefully make the document easier to read. Today we will only touch on the key sections of a protocol. However, you can find a full description of each section in Chapter 14 of Volume 1 of the group's CRA manual, which can be found on the group's website. The schema is an outline of the treatment plan for a protocol, including randomization if it is part of the study. In newer studies, however, schemas appear only in Phase 3 studies or complicated Phase 2 studies. Section 5 in SWOG protocols is always the eligibility criteria. These criteria are included in order for you to be able to evaluate your patient's eligibility for a particular protocol. Section 7 contains the treatment plan that explains the treatment in detail. Section 8 is the toxicities to be monitored and dose modification section and enlists anticipated toxicities and guidelines for dose modifications. It also lists the name and phone number of the study coordinator in case you have any questions relating to treatment. Section 9, the study calendar, lists the tests, treatment, and tumor assessments and when they should be done. Section 12 is the discipline review section, and it includes information regarding pathology, radiation, surgery, or other discipline review requirements. These may involve additional data submission that are not included in Section 14 of the study. Section 14 of every SWOG protocol is the data submission section, and this provides a detailed schedule for all required data submission. Section 18 is the master forms section. Provided here are copies of required forms that include data that are submitted online. These forms are to be used for such purposes as gathering data for online submission or for IRB review. After a protocol is opened for the registration of patients and is distributed to the participating institutions via the group's website, it will eventually undergo changes which help to create a flexible study that is able to adapt to different situations. Protocol actions are changes in the status of a protocol. They are sent out to the participating institutions with the group protocol distributions. These distributions originate from the operations office on the 1st and the 15th of each month and are posted on the group's website. An activation distribution is the official notification that a protocol is open for patient accrual. This is also a signal to the institution to put the protocol through their local IRB review process. After activation, there are several different types of modifications which may occur concerning the protocol. An amendment is a scientific change in the protocol that has the potential for increasing patient risk. Please remember, when you see an amendment, the change will need to be submitted to full board IRB review. Other changes may also need to be submitted to the IRB depending on individual institution requirements. A revision, on the other hand, is a more administrative or editorial change that does not have the potential for increasing patient risk. Examples are if a section needs to be reworded to better explain the intent, or if the address of the study coordinator changes. A memorandum may be sent out to bring attention to something or explain a part of a study that is confusing. If patients are not being enrolled on a study, a notice may be sent to participants encouraging registration. A memorandum is not accompanied by associated changes in the protocol. However, when we distribute external safety reports, these are accompanied by a memorandum and may require local IRB approval. There are two types of closures. Temporary closures mean that a study is temporarily closed to patient accrual so that the study coordinator can review the data for response to treatment. If the number of responses called for in the statistical section of the protocol is met, then the study may be reopened until it fulfills its total accrual goal. Studies may also be temporarily closed if there has been a severe toxicity or death on study thought to be related to treatment, or if there is a problem with drug supply that needs to be further evaluated. The study may reopen after the study coordinator reviews the situation. Permanent closures are just that, permanent, and the studies do not reopen. These usually occur, and hopefully, when a study has reached its full accrual. However, sometimes the group will permanently close a study when we have determined that the study is not likely to ever reach its accrual goal, or when external events have proven that the study is no longer worth doing. Each protocol that is available on the SWOG website is accompanied by a protocol abstract. This abstract contains a lot of information about the study that you can find in a quick, easy-to-read format. This includes the study number, the phase of the study's title, a quick description of treatments, and the committee to which the study belongs. This also includes a list of available downloads for that particular protocol. The protocol abstract will always include a download of the full protocol, an editable version of the model consent form, a copy of an editable HIPAA authorization form, and the protocol's most recent update, as well as a funding memorandum. Many protocols will also provide a fast fact sheet and additional downloads that may be protocol specific. The protocol abstract will also routinely include the study coordinators' names, the participating institutions, and a very brief description of the study's eligibility criteria. At the bottom of the protocol abstract are some very important things to note. You will find the study's activation date, and if the study has been closed, you'll also find the closure date. Additionally, there are two buttons. On the left side is a link to the SWOG report of studies for that particular protocol, the most recent version. And on the right side is a link to a list of all of the SWOG institutions that have received IRB approval for participation on that particular study. SWOG is one of several large cancer research cooperative groups funded by the National Cancer Institute. Other groups that are very similar to the SWOG include the Eastern Cooperative Oncology Group, the Cancer and Leukemia Group B, and the North Central Cancer Treatment Group. These groups are similar to SWOG in that they are multi-disease and multidisciplinary in treating adult cancer patients. In addition, there are other cooperative groups that are either disease or modality specific, such as the Radiation Therapy Oncology Group, the Gynecologic Oncology Group, the National Surgical Adjuvant Breast and Bowel Project, the American College of Radiology Imaging Network, and the American College of Surgeons Oncology Group. Additionally, there is a single oncology group, the Children's Oncology Group, which is entirely pediatric in focus. Also, the National Cancer Institute in the U.S. provides some funding for support of the European Organization for Research and Treatment of Cancer, or EORTC, and the National Clinical Trials Group in Canada. When accrual requirements warrant, either for very large studies or for rare tumors, the different groups will work together on a study that is a true collaboration among the groups. This collaboration is called an intergroup study. In an intergroup study, one group is designated as the coordinating group for the study, and the protocol is developed according to that group's format. All of the participating groups have input into the development process. All of the groups accrue patients to the study, and all participating groups share in the publication of study results, but only one protocol document is used. The CTSU, Cancer Trial Support Unit, is an NCI project that is responsible for centralizing the performance of intergroup trials. The CTSU website is located at this URL, and if you are interested in participating on studies coordinated by other cooperative groups, you can find information about this participation there. Intergroup studies can be very confusing if you're accustomed only to SWOG protocols. The protocols are formatted differently, and the guidelines, forms, and timeframes may not be the same as for our studies. It is very important that you become familiar with each study as it pertains to your patients, but it is particularly important with intergroup protocols. Thank you so much for your attention. I'll be returning you to a few questions about this presentation, and once again, I would really like to welcome you to the group.